I did have like a flu last week. I probably had it on the last show, but I was just about coming down with it, and I'm recovering. And
okay, in that case, let us say sorry to anyone in Nottingham who's caught COVID this week.
It's over a week ago now, but yeah.
And I was just looking around like, I need beans now. There's something like, it needs a little saucery, sort of something on the side, but there's just no beans. Then I was heartbroken. Then I was like, I don't think I'm going to eat breakfast today.
What they'll have done then is they'll have lost one match and done what everybody who's in any of our chats will ever have done and ripped up the entire tactic because they've lost one match.
They did!
And start again.
They literally did! They did!
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the FM show. I'm your host Tony Jameson. Returning this week is the one and only RDF Tactics, aka Aaron Falloon. We're going to find out where Aaron was last week in just a moment. We also have Maggio with us as well. Fellas, I hope you're well. Aaron, we'll come to you first. Where were you last week?
Well, FIFA E sent me, we won the group in the World Cup, so they sent me to Croatia to visit Dinamo Zagreb. I mean, for a long time, I was just saying Dinamo Zagreb, right? I was just saying Dinamo Zagreb, but my son always used to say Dinamo. Like, he just reads it as Dinamo for some reason. And, like, it used to, like, trigger me a bit. So I was like, Remy, it's Dinamo. It's Dinamo. So, yeah, got to Dinamo Zagreb, obviously taking pictures and stuff. And the man's like, I was like, yeah, we're here at Dinamo Zagreb. He let us record all this intro. Like, it took me a little while to record this intro. And then at the end, he's like, brilliant. But Dinamo Zagreb, not Dynamo. Dynamo. I was like, no way.
Comes as a big shock for the magician Dynamo as well, who's now got to rebrand himself as Dinamo
Dinamo the magician. So, yeah, I learned that it's Dinamo Zagreb. So that's where I've been. Thank you, FIFA E, for sending me out. And it was an amazing trip. And we will talk a lot more about it during this episode, which will tie in to the main episode, or main part of the episode as well, in Football Manager.
Absolutely. He's been away a week, Si, but he's still slick as, isn't he?
He is. And we had a fantastic live show, right?
We did. Probably should mention that because, as you know, the live show happened on Monday. We're recording this before Monday. So, just to say thank you to the 18,000 people that turned up to the live show. It was the greatest event in Nottingham, and I believe the mayor has said that we can have the freedom of the city. So, thank you very much for that. If you weren't at the live show, the only way to see it is via Patreon. We are going to put the live show up on Patreon, so we're going to get the plug in early doors. If you want to see the live show, come and join us, patreon.com/the FM show pod, and you can sign up from as little as £3 a month, or you can even have a cheeky little 7-day free trial if you've never done it before, so you can do that. Si, let's not talk about the live show just yet. Let's talk about your week. How have you been?
Well, you could probably sound a bit gruff. So, yeah, I did have like a flu last week. I probably had it on the last show, but I was just about coming down with it, and I'm recovering. I'm in recovery. I've been to a Halloween party yesterday, and
okay. In that case, let us say sorry to anyone in Nottingham who's caught COVID this week.
It's over a week ago now, but yeah, actually 2 weeks ago. I had it for 2 weeks, so it must be on the real tail end.
Oof.
All right, you mentioned there the old Halloween festivities as well. We've been and done that. I've had the kids trick or treat, and youngest Jameson's had a birthday this week as well. So that's all been crazy. He's just turned 5, so it's been like a sugar-fueled half-term full of energy this week, and I'm really feeling like Monday was just a really great blowout, to be honest. I needed that. But we're back down to business. We're talking FM. Si, as you say, last week we had the mad scientist on the show in place of Aaron talking about his retro database, which he's trying to get done given the whole delays with FM25. He's putting the 94-95 database together. We also sort of did a little soft launch, didn't we, of a challenge with the current retro database that the mad scientist got. Do you want to do a quick recap of that, and then we'll go to Aaron to find out all about Croatia?
Sure. So the current retro database is 0708, and I forgot what team. Did I suggest Derby? I think
you said Derby, yeah, because Derby was like the worst team in
So you got to try and keep Derby up in the 07-08 database. I couldn't remember if I suggested Portsmouth in the end. I think I nearly did because they won the FA Cup.
I think you did, but I think we vetoed you.
And then I suggested Palermo was the other suggestion, but I thought maybe I just can't choose my clubs. No, Derby County. So you got to try and keep Derby County up. The person who does the best obviously wins. Go out there, sign Hulk for Derby County, and see what he can do. That would be my suggestion, because I think you can get Hulk pretty cheap from Russia or somewhere, wherever he is.
Wow.
Yeah. So we'll put the link in the description. Again, it was in last week's episode, so if you go back, have a listen to that, and play a catch up on that, you can do that. We'll pop it in the Discord as well. And if you don't want to play as Derby County, play as someone else and just let us know how you're going with it, because that's the whole point of this. We want to try and make some things that, we've got a little bit of time to kill now between now and FM25. So try some stuff that maybe you haven't tried before. We'll maybe do an episode next week on what to do in the wait time, and we'll try some new game styles for that. But Aaron, it's going to lead us on a little bit into what we're talking about today. So let's talk about Croatia, because that will lead into one of those new game styles that maybe people haven't tried in the FM24. So talk us through it then. What was the situation? How have we got to Croatia? What happened? And I mean, thank you for coming back, I suppose, is one thing. We expect you getting swept up onto the coaching staff or something.
I was seriously thinking about staying. So, there was a plan. They had a plan scheduled for me and what I was going to do in FIFA in Dinamo Zagreb. But then as the time was getting closer, it felt like they had more ideas and stuff. So it turns out that FIFA E also sent a cameraman to create some content as well. So while I was out there in Dinamo Zagreb, I was there to create content with Dinamo Zagreb and FIFA E, as well as have meetings with the academy, the youth academy, the sporting director. There was VIP tickets as well to a game, which maybe we went to the wrong one. maybe we went to the wrong match. But yeah, it was a great trip. I was very surprised about the access that we was given. So when you hear about you're going to go to, or you win these trips to like Premier League clubs or to these professional clubs, like they are working as well, and it's very busy at these professional clubs. So you sort of expect a lot of change as well. Like you get this plan, you're like, we might not be able to do all of these things, but we're just happy to go, and we're going to obviously surely see the stadium and that sort of stuff. But nope, when we got there, it was just like immediate access. So the first day we got there, the first I got there was late evening, so I stayed over. Obviously, I had my good night's sleep, had breakfast. I thought, let me be a TikTok creator as well. I was TikToking myself, and this is what I'm eating in Croatia, the breakfast and all that sort of stuff.
Before
really
we go further, let's talk about what you were eating in Croatia, because you've gone to Croatia, and I wanted to pick your bones, but we've already talked about your culinary lack of expertise with your 5 steak, right? But what did you eat in Croatia, Aaron, when you went for a look around?
Well, I didn't see the food beforehand, so I was recording content not knowing what's downstairs, but in my head, I just expected the typical, the beans, the bacon, and all that sort of stuff. So I just got down there, and I was just like, yeah, it's not what I thought it was going to be. So there was just a lot of foods that I can't really explain, I haven't seen before. But there's also like just cheese, ham, and that sort of stuff. But yeah, I saw the sausages, and obviously things look a little bit different. So I saw the sausages, and I was like, I'm not quite sure on chicken sausages. I need my normal sausages. So I just put 2. I didn't try it really. I put 2 sausages on the plate, because you obviously can go back to it. Then now I'm looking for the bacon. There's no bacon. There's just ham, like cooked ham though. So yeah, I tried that as well. And I was just looking around like, I need beans now. There's something like, it needs a little saucery, sort of something on the side. But there was just no beans. Then I was heartbroken. Then I was like, I don't think I'm going to eat breakfast today. I don't think I'm going to eat breakfast. I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to get some cereal. But then I saw croissants on the side. I was like, you know what, I picked 2 pieces of croissants, 2 sausages, 2 pieces of ham. That was my breakfast on the first day, which was nice. It was nice.
It's the breakfast of champions right there in its size. Managed to avoid all the major food groups at once.
Yeah,
there was egg as well, but I don't normally eat egg. So when I eat egg at home, it has to be like overdone. I don't really like the eggy smell, the taste, and the texture as well. Like I hate a lot of things about egg. So I cover it with salt and pepper as well. Like that's how I have my egg at home. So I don't really eat egg from other places. So there's obviously a lot of other cooked food, but I'm not a big eater. I'm a fussy eater as well. Like if I go out, which we did, my first thing is just burger and chips. That's the first thing I look for. Is there burger and chips there? Yes. All right, we're good to go. We're good to go. So yeah, that was my breakfast on the first morning to fill me up for the first day at Dinamo Zagreb.
There you go, Si. We're diversifying our content in the time between FM24 and FM25. We're now a food podcast. So, Si, what was your breakfast? No, don't.
I bought peanut butter bats from Aldi that I've not eaten yet. Actually, I need to. So my wife told me we were going around the supermarket and all the stuff's in Aldi, and this is definitely not Football Manager related, but she's saying.
Right, yeah. Go on, you keep going.
Okay,
I've got a thing about Aldi.
So I was
related,
like, sort of walking up the middle aisles and picking things up and putting them in the basket. And I saw these like Halloween Reese's or whatever. Not Reese's, but like peanut butter and chocolate flavored breakfast, right? And I was like, they look tasty. I'll have them. She goes, you don't eat cereal. You don't have breakfast. And I said, yeah, but these look nice. I'll have these. She says, you can't have them because you won't have breakfast. You don't eat breakfast. I said, I will. I'll have these. These look nice. She goes, you won't. And if you can get them, but you have to eat them. They can't just stay in the cupboard and go stale. But so far, I forgot about them until just now. And I haven't had breakfast since. This was like a week and a half ago, so yeah.
Right, on the subject of Aldi, and definitely football, for those people who are now thinking, I'm going to have to turn this off, right? No, right. In Aldi, at the minute, they have... Well, I presume... I'm going to use the word knockoff, but I think I mean like cheap version of Haribo jellies. Bebetos, former Brazilian striker Bebeto. I don't think it's the same person who makes them, but I did tweet out that I think he's diversified his portfolio now from, Brazilian soccer legend to creator of, knockoff jelly sweets. So maybe, we'll see.
Now I've got to check if there was ever a footballer called Haribo. Because it does sound like there should be.
Haribo West.
There was.
Yeah. Haribo
West.
Right, while he's doing that, come on then, Aaron. Let's go. Right, so you've had your nutritious breakfast, right? You're all ready for the day. What are you up to?
So my first little... So this, bear in mind as well, people, this is my first time travelling, alone as well. So it's my first time travelling alone. And bear in mind what just happened at the World Cup where everything was given, everything was structured for you. All you got to do is be there and someone will take you wherever it is.
It was an itinerary, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then after breakfast, I'm like, I've got to make my own way to the stadium. So I'm just like...
And if anyone knows anything about Aaron, he does not know his way anywhere.
I'm like, oh, God. So I'm there just quickly rushing, downloading the Uber app and that sort of stuff. So I got the Uber ridiculously cheap, by the way. It's a 10-minute drive or so, maybe just under, but it was €3, to get there. I was like, this is crazy. So yeah, I got there to the stadium, and then we're doing the meet up and meeting people and stuff. And then straight away, it was just access was just given to you. First, they're introducing you, taking you into this room. So we got to meet the content people. We got to see the youth academy people, but I want to leave that part towards the end so we can tail off into Football Manager. And then obviously, there's just a lot of people around the club, just working around the club that you meet. And then after that, the guy's just like, right, I'm off to a meeting now, 15. I'll be gone for 20 minutes. And then just leaves us there. And we're just like, okay. Okay, what do we do? So we're just talking, getting to know each other. He comes back, and now we get to see the training and that sort of stuff. So he takes us out to training. Well, obviously, I get to see Martin Batchavina for the first time. Flesh! A few players, but, my eyes are just wandering. First, I was just looking for him. Since I found him, I was like, yes. And that's where we started to make our the first bit of content as well. Unfortunately, though, when we got to the training, it was their drug testing day as well. So we didn't actually get to see much on the training day, that was the only, unfortunate bit. And then just going out for lunch and then getting to know the people. And obviously, they're very open, very, very open, talking about their jobs and stuff. Mostly positive stuff, of course. And yeah, that was the first day. The second day was just a rest day, so we just had the time to visit the city, where I thought it was a good idea to go into the town, stream myself, so I was live streaming and just started walking. Just sort of forget where you are. I'm talking to the chat and I'm just walking. And I'm telling people, no, never turn left. When you're lost, never turn left. Right is always right, right? Just right is always right. And then I saw something on the left. I was like, oh, we're turning left. We're turning left. I think that's it. Someone said the Adidas shop is on the left. So I was like, oh, yeah, we're turning left. Turned left. And then got to the Adidas shop. But after the Adidas shop, everything was just a blur. I just kept walking, talking. Murph is like, I think you should shut down the stream now and use Google Maps. And I'm like, no, I'm just walking. I'm just getting to a bit. I'm like, okay, now all I'm seeing is houses, trees. Like, I'm nowhere near where I'm supposed to be right now.
I feel bad for constantly bringing this up, but the first time we did a live show in Nottingham, Aaron was 300 yards from his hotel, and we heard from him an hour and a half later as he walked in the wrong direction. Like, he could see the hotel, and he just kept walking in the other direction. Him and White Callum going, well, I think we know where we're going. Clearly didn't. So doing that in Nottingham, which is one straight line, sticking him in Croatia, that's not going to work, is it?
No, man. The worst thing all I have to do is walk in the straight line, and I somehow got lost. But into the juicy stuff, into the actual football side of things now, the sporting director, I got to have a good old meeting with the sporting director, which originally was supposed to be about Dinamo Zagreb and how they run things and blah, 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 and what the future plans are. Sorry about the blah, blah, blah. But then he didn't know about Football Manager. So I was like, oh, yeah, this is what I do. Like, I do scouting and stuff, and he's like, oh, okay, very interesting. So where all your knowledge come from? I was like, so I started off with this game, and then I started breaking down the game, but he started he got mad interested in the game. So FIFA was like, get the cameras rolling. So then automatically, which is in this interview where I'm just literally breaking down Football Manager to him. And it was weird because he sort of got lost in the conversation and forgot where he was for a few moments and started saying things. Obviously, I can't repeat it, but he started saying things what I don't think that Dinamo Zagreb would be completely happy to be said in an interview. But that's just how open, that's like the sort of people they are. Like, if you're having a conversation with them, obviously you just got that mutual respect in there. A lot of things that you're saying, you're not expected to go out and pull it on Twitter or whatever it is anyway. So you just got that mutual respect. But I think it was like a bit mind-blowing being in that situation where people are actually just being open about this professional club that I've seen a lot on Football Manager. We've signed players a lot from them for Football Manager. And I'm trying to explain to him, like, your club are pretty popular in the Football Manager community because of this. But it's like, yeah, this is how it is in real life. That sort of thing. He's like, a lot of things in the game is relatable. And I'm talking about that they got a striker, Bruno Petkovic, and I'm like, oh, yeah, in the World Cup, we lost him because of the release clause. He's like, oh, so you guys know about that? It was like, yeah. It was like, he was so confused. Then he saw himself in the game for the first time as well. I showed him, because he's a head of youth development. He's like, ooh, I've leveled up now, because now he's a sporting director. So, yeah, and he was breaking down a lot of things and the youth. And so the way we play the game, right, I don't know about you guys, but I have seen people say they first look for the mental attributes, then maybe the physical, and then lastly the technical. Like, that's how many of us look at young players, and it's crazy to say here that he's literally breaking it down in that sort of similar way. And it's like he's seen so many players with so much skill, but they don't really have the mental aspect to the game, or they're just physically, in their age group, they're just physically great. But again, once they go to the higher age groups, they can't find their way out. They can't find their feet because they don't just have that mental aspect. And he's talking about like composure and reading the game and that sort of stuff. And it's like, so a lot of the times when they see a player like Martin Petruna, like, of course he's technically gifted, but what they saw early is the mental aspects of it. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, this is exactly how we are in Football Manager when we're looking at plays and that sort of stuff. So it was really interesting. I'm trying to explain, like, not build a nation, but sort of like how in the game as Dinamo Zagreb, because you can't always play the youngsters. And he was saying as well, which is going to tie in with the youth-only part of the episode, where he was saying, we would love to play so many youngsters. Like, we've got great youngsters, we would love to play them, but when the results not going the way that you want them to, it's very difficult for them to again get into the side. And again, that's a test for them as well, to keep their head up and just keep going and keep going. But it was, again, it's just like how relatable that is to us when you want to play this youngster in your youth team, but at the moment, the results are not going your way. It happened to me in my youth-only save. So that's the save that I'm doing in Football Manager. And that's the save that I think sometimes it doesn't sound that challenging until you're in that position where you can't buy anyone. You're not in a position to buy anyone. And Dinamo Zagreb, like, they're not broke in Croatia, so they can buy players, but they can't go out and just buy who they want. whenever they want, sort of thing as well. So you're in that situation where you just can't go out and buy that, oh, we need a striker that's just going to score headed goals sort of thing. You just go to the market and be like, yeah, he's great. He's got great heading attributes. Obviously, in the youth only save, you just got to rely on what you've got there, which is the difficulty of youth only save. And some people are like, I'm just going to take the easy. I'm going to start easy and start at Manchester United. But what they don't know is that maybe at the start it could be a bit easy. As the years go on, though, things might start to get challenged when players like Bruno Fernandes start retiring, Marcus Rashford and stuff, and you can't automatically replace those players with that sort of quality. Like, you've got to come back down with the youth players, and hopefully they can just develop and turn into those players. So that's the save that I'm doing on Football Manager, by the way, people. Youth only. And I think it's a save that it's got me stressed at the moment. Like, highly stressed, very stressed. But it's a save I think a lot of people should do, because I got a feeling that when we do win something, or if we do win something, it's just that feeling will feel great. I think that feeling will feel great, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so a few points to break down then before we get into the youth only aspect of it. Like, Sai, I mean, first of all, you know, from our perspective, ourselves being removed from the situation, that the experience that Aaron's just had there, he's had the experience that every Football Manager player wants, is to have that immediate access with the club that he's managed before, being treated like an equal, the club then going, oh, how do you know all the things that we do? And it's like, well, like the club being almost blissfully unaware of how much we put into the game to get out of it, and they're like, well, it's just our thing, and we're like, yeah, but we know a lot because we spend a lot of time researching. Like I mean, he's won the lottery ticket anyway. This one, really,
it's good, isn't it? When you have these people who work in football, you said the same with John Terry. No, John Terry played the game. Was it Big Sam in the World Cup?
Big Sam.
He was like, you know, he was looking at the game and he was like, what's, you know, he'd never seen it before, right? And he was just like, But they're so familiar with football and obviously the world of like management and everything that it's like, hang on, this is like pretty well replicating what we do. And we know that like Sports Interactive obviously had experts in to advise them on how the game goes and stuff. So, yeah, I think it's really interesting when people like, obviously some clubs have really embraced the game. We know that, you know, the database has been licensed by Everton and maybe 10 to 15 other clubs. Certainly, you know, probably more than that, I'd imagine. They probably license it out to a lot of people. I'd be curious, like, what the commercial. I wonder actually. So with Football Manager 25 being delayed, do you think the database is like? Do they have a front end for the database that goes to clubs?
Don't know. Good question.
Because clubs have partnerships where they sort of pay for this scouting base. Obviously, there are other tools that they use, like. Sky Sports, not Sky Sports, SCI Sports. What's it called?
The
one that's in the game, and there's a couple others, right? But like, I wonder whether if they actually license out their scouting to clubs, like I'd imagine, like it's not as in depth as clubs would like, but it's, you know, it's so many players that it's like beyond what most clubs are capable of. So I wonder whether that Football Manager 25 database is already out there. Obviously not the game, but like the info.
Yeah, that'd be
potentially.
I'll probably set someone off on a wild goose chase now to try and find who were the Wonder Kids in FM25 way early. Just hack into the back end at Everton.
There has been third party databases made that of course aren't based on you know, real life situations. So you know, there's some of them of course which are very good, and there are some which, you know, we certainly wouldn't recommend. But we'll keep that as a conversation for another day. Aaron's gone running off to grab some audio listeners. I have to explain it for the audio listeners that Aaron ran off from his chair. Hence why I was I'm going to do a little fill for this point because I've got no idea what he's about to do. But he's come back clutching a magazine, so this is going to be good.
There's actually, like, because so much happened there, like there's actually so much I forgot as well. So actually the first day we got there and walking into the stadium, we went into the fan shop, but obviously we just saw these plastered about, not thinking too much of it, whatever. But as you do, you just open it up, skim through. You're just skimming through the pages, And then I just like, wait, that's me. I was so confused. So in their actual official magazine as well, Club Magazine, we've got like a whole 2-page about the FIFA World Cup and that sort of stuff. But it was even from there, obviously it's not like they're talking to a typical gamer. They're like, they want to pick my mind about certain things. So they're basically talking about what I'm going to do as well at the journey. I don't think they actually mentioned, that I'm coming to Croatia. I don't think that was there.
Did they mention the podcast?
No.
No.
Well, I had to use Google Lens. Sly told me to use Google Lens. I had to use Google Lens to actually try and read some of it. Obviously, some of the translation's a bit sketchy. Like, it just did not make sense. But yeah, they wanted to pick my brains and that sort of stuff. But just seeing that it was mental. And then going into the stadium, of course, you're seeing the writer as well. And the writer's like, oh my God, I've got something to show you. But obviously, by then, I've already seen it, but obviously now I'm going to act all surprised and that sort of stuff. So he showed me, I was like, no way, that's so crazy.
Yeah, we saw the pictures of you on the pitch and in the dugout with your big jacket on, having a great time. So yeah,
that was one of the bits of content. Like, I said to you guys as well, I wish the content would have been out before we recorded the podcast, because at least we would have had something to talk about, look back, because I don't know how they're going to edit it and design and that sort of stuff, but yeah, so with the VIP pass, I got to go onto the pitch as the players are warming up for their game and that sort of stuff, which was a bit crazy because I was there to create content. So I'm like, I've got to be me. But the players are trying to focus. It's like, so they're doing kick-ups and doing passing drills. And there's just hearing some guy deciding like, all right, come on, lads.
Did any of them hit the post in the warm-up and just have you...
They didn't, no. They didn't. But that Bruno Petkovic is an absolute monster. He's a monster in real life as well. So is his beard. Like, as soon as you see him from a mile away, like, yep, that's him. Mm-hmm. So we got to do that. Also, a press conference. So I got to redo another press conference, talk about living the dream. Mm-hmm. Of course, like, one of the standout things, I guess, from the World Cup is my press conferences. So, of course, Dinamo Zagreb got me to do that again. That was for their content. Mm-hmm. So I done another press conference. But the craziest thing about this is that it's literally right before the manager's press conference for the game coming up. So, like, the press conference is all set up like it's a proper press conference. The journalists are there in their chair. And then I'm like, this content guy. So they're literally just recording me. And these journalists must be thinking, who is this guy? Like, I've got cameras just following me up into the press conference thing. So I'm talking now. I'm sitting in the chair. One or two people ask me questions who are part of the content. And I don't think the journalists sort of clocked on, like, we're playing the game too. So they started asking questions as well. And I'm like, man, I've got to actually answer this like a proper... So they're talking about 3 at the back against Salzburg. I was like, I didn't watch that game. I didn't know you lot played 3 at the back. So he's just like wigging it. I was like, yeah, I mean, we're just going to carry on with the same momentum and go and push into the next game and that sort of stuff. So yeah, the press conference, that bit was actually mad because as soon as I got up, of course, the manager comes in as well.
Did they realise you were? Did they realise you were like doing it for like the
the journalists sort of clocked on after the first 2 questions, and obviously I'm just acting a bit cheeky and stuff. Then
they didn't think you were actually like taking on the actual game or something.
No, I don't think they actually fully. I think after when I got down, that's when all the other people started explaining who I was, and like they started handing this around and that sort of stuff. And they were like, "Oh yeah, good." But the manager done his press conference, and then as soon as he got down from his chair, he's like, he's walking past. He sees me. He's like, "Oh yes, hello." And then in my head, I'm like, wait, whoa, what's going on? Like in my head, but obviously you're trying to act cool and composed. I'm trying to remember the handshake etiquette and how strong your hand has to be and that sort of stuff. That's all that sort of stuff is just going through my head.
Oh yeah,
he's talking like,
don't do a limp handshake with the manager. You gotta make sure it's a firm handshake. Do you know what I mean?
And then obviously again, that was just like an opportunity, a time for me to sort of show off my sort of knowledge about the players that they've got. And he's just like again, like, oh yes, really good, yeah, very good player, very good player. Then asking for a picture as well. That wasn't me. I didn't even ask for the picture. So that was crazy.
Oh, so they wanted the RDF selfie. Okay, I like it.
Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah.
Okay, well, tell you what, like all that is incredible, and of course, when the content comes out, we'll retweet it all as well, to boost it a bit. Not that of course we can boost it, but you know what I mean. Like we'll share it around because that's obviously what we'll do. But in terms of using it as inspiration for FM, now as you said. You've kind of already alluded to it a little bit. You are now taking on this youth-only challenge.
Yes.
For those people who maybe haven't managed youth only before, let's try and explain it in a high level first of all, then we'll start breaking it down and get some little, into the minutiae as we go through, because it's one of those terms that I think people sort of like hear, but then don't really understand exactly what it means.
Yeah.
Go on then, Aaron. I'll let you explain it. How do you envisage youth only?
So, again, I was just like, the save to me just didn't sound like a challenge. Like when I just hear it, I used to hear it all the time, youth only. I'm like, yeah, it sounds nice, develop your own youth. And that's all it is. Like in my head is like, oh, that's nice, develop your own youth. That's it. Like there's no challenge, that's all it is. But I was in Croatia and then I was watching Lewis H90 stream and he's doing a youth only save. And obviously he's titled it youth only, no signings. So then that's when it started triggering to, like, that's where it sort of first clicked into my head. I was like, oh wait, it's literally just no signings throughout the whole save. And then I was watching him and then I saw him trying to navigate through issues because, of course, like I said earlier, he needed a certain player or that role needed a certain thing, but he's got no player that can do that, or he's got a player that can do this and that, but then he can't pass or whatever it is, but he wants to be a possession-based team and that sort of thing. So I was watching him trying to navigate through those issues, and that's what got me inspired.
And I guess that's where the first misconception comes, Si, isn't it? When you say youth only, some people will go, oh, right, just sign young players. And it's no, don't sign any players.
It depends on if you're doing, like, you could do it the other way as well.
Yeah.
But, like, try and win. You can't win anything with kids challenge. I don't know if that's what it's called, but that's what I'm naming it. But, I think, like, definitely they have to come from your academy.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. See, and you can even take that to two extremes, because that could be no signing still, like absolutely no one. You can't buy anyone in. Or it could be you can sign them. You can only sign players in on a youth contract, because your coaches might sign players. If you leave it to the assistants, they might still sign players into your academy, right?
Yeah,
like youngsters on a free or whatever, like if they're 15, 16. So you can even take that to extreme. It might be like they have to play in your academy, but you could like still sign them super young, or you could literally, with the proper way of doing it would be just like you can't sign anyone. You just got to, whatever pumps out your academy every year, you've got to take that.
Yeah. That's the way I'm doing it. So whatever pumps out from the youth academy is, you just got to deal with it.
Which I guess is good, because again, you've got those levels of difficulty within the save already. So it's not just it's the hardcore way or no way.
Yeah.
You can
so that's the thing,
adapt
right?
it a little bit. And I mean, ultimately, the interesting way of doing this as well is, you already sort of touched upon it a little bit, Aaron, is going, well, let's take a big team because they're going to have really good youth intakes. And that is very, very tempting to do, because good youth intakes, I mean, God, the amount of dreadful youth intakes I had in Greece, I think I had 2 players come through in Greece in 20 years. So that shows you how difficult those sorts of challenges can be. So if you are Manchester United, yes, you're likely to get a lot of good players coming through, but you're not going to get one who can instantly replace your starting midfielder, your starting centre-half.
Yeah.
So that adds another layer of difficulty to it. So do you then scale it back and go into a league which has got more balanced players, for example, like Scandinavia, for example, is quite a good one. Croatia is quite a good one. Lots of the Eastern European teams, where putting a youngster into the team isn't necessarily going to throw you too far off. I mean, I'm in South Africa at the minute. You've got to play a lot of young players in South Africa. That's probably quite an easy place to do it, like, because you can get 15-year-olds who you can put straight in the first team and they're good enough to play.
Yeah. So that's where, I think that's how we started as well. So we started in the Spanish 4th tier with UE Cornelia. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. It's in the community of Catalonia. So yeah, we started in the 4th tier, which I found that was the case, right? Like it's more of a balanced league. And then where other teams might have some good players, but they're also gonna have some very not good players as well. Like for example, our striker had decent, like 12 in most of the attributes in the physical side of things, but the opposition centre-backs, their jumping reach might be 7, or their strength might be 7, that sort of thing, where then our striker just becomes sort of a beast compared to that centre-back. And that's where, our striker's got a lot of goals because of that sort of thing as well. But, of course, the difficulty is when you start getting promoted, because we got promoted, and what we instantly realised is that well, because we're in Spain, so each player has a release clause, right? We got promoted. Of course, the very best youth player in the team just gets snapped up straight away, no question. And the minimum release wasn't even activated. The board just said, you know what, the offer's too good. It was 96k. It was 96k, and the board was like, you know what, this offer's too good to turn down. So then we just lost the player automatically, a big player. And then the quality, because you've already sort of done that underdog story in the 4th tier, now you're in the 3rd tier, and you're like, now you're the underdog sort of thing, because now you've been promoted, the quality is better, but you haven't improved. Or some youth players might have improved, but generally you haven't improved over the board. Like, your striker hasn't got better, your wingers hasn't got better. So yeah, we had like a grind out season. The grind out seasons, though, I feel was good because you learn a lot about the team and then what you can do and what you can't do tactically. That's what we learned a lot in that season. But going through it at the same time was, yeah, very stressful. Very stressful. See your centre back just get bullied.
and it's a huge problem as well, Si, isn't it? When you've got promoted, you've got this striker, in Aaron's case there, who's sold for 96k, which is not a lot of money, but it's a lot of money in that division, and you need to replace that player, and you can't. So you're already up against it in terms of, like, we've got to try and settle into this new division. You then can't replace the player who's you're hoping is going to lead your line. So, I mean, that just becomes more challenging on day one.
Yeah, ideally you don't sell anyone unless you have to. Like, really, you shouldn't sell anyone.
But the board have got their own agenda, haven't they? They look at the bottom line.
Yeah, so if it's that much money, you ask them to put it straight back. Like, you think about the long term. You're like, hey, improve the youth. Can I have more youth coaches? Can we have more youth scouting? Can we have a bigger youth network? They'll probably say no, but you know, you just got to keep pestering them. I mean, I've got a problem with this. So if those who are new won't know that I'm doing Athletic Club Bilbao, which can only sign Basque players. So it's almost a youth challenge, but not quite, because I can sign Basque players, but all my academy are Basque as well. So I won't get a Ghanaian wonder kid in my academy, for example, unless he's also Basque. So I can sign from like the other 5 or 6 clubs in the region. Actually, there's more than that, but like there's maybe 3 top teams, which is Osasuna, Sociedad, and Alaves, maybe one other. So I can sign from those 3 teams, but not all their players, only their Basque players. So only the ones which are like in their academy. And I had a problem where the board suddenly decided they wanted me to have the best youth development in the country. Like, we had a board takeover. You know the elections in Spanish football. We had a board takeover from the elections, new president elected. And he was like, right, my agenda is we are going to have the best youth recruitment in Spain. I'm like, okay, well, we're not far off. He's like, and you're already failing it. You've already failed it. You've already got a red mark against your name. I'm like, as soon as it went for, like, it must have been a bug in the game or something. But just immediately he came in and I failed it, and I was like, you've not even like, that's like, why is that on? That's not even on me, is it? The other thing that he made me do was sign players to make a profit. I'm like, I can only sign Basque players. How can I sign players to make a profit when I can only sign Basque? And I'm not selling the best ones.
But you can also have a problem as well, and again, this is for future down the line, you've just given me a thought there, Si. When new boards come in, if your vision changes to sign high-profile players, for example, you might be failing because you're not bringing those players in. And then the board's
sign profit, sign
I told you to sign players. And you're like, I'm just using the youth system. The game doesn't understand how you're playing the game. Like, the game doesn't
spend your transfer budget. I mean, it's a nice one to have, but it's like, if you're given Chelsea transfer budget and they say you have to spend the money, then you have to spend the money. You don't see it very often, but it's normally the really rich clubs. They'll be like, hey, we got this money, like, because basically the fan base expect them to spend the money. It's kind of an interesting one. But yeah, I think, like, if that happens to you, like, and you're at the top end, you're like, no, I'm just playing the kids. They're like, hey, you could get Ronaldo or Harry Kane or whoever. Probably not by the time you get there, but you know, and they're like, no, I'm playing, you know, Billy Mitchell here. He's just Billy Mitchell. You know, he's just
local lad.
Billy, what's the name? Billy Mitchell. It's not EastEnders, is it?
Yeah,
it's Phil Mitchell and
there's Billy. Yeah, so there's Phil Mitchell. Is it Grant Mitchell?
And Grant. Was there a Billy? Maybe
Yeah, Billy's there. I don't know if he's like cousin.
What we've got is we've got a cross between EastEnders and Billy Elliot here, haven't we? We've got like, and that's a show I'd watch, to be honest.
Do you know, it's probably like it's just a name that came in. It's probably like someone I went to school with or something, like a Billy Mitchell or something. You know, just a name that sticks in your head and you just.
I bet there is a Billy Mitchell in the database. If you've got one, let us know in the comments. By the way, show us in Discord. There's a screenshot of Billy Mitchell.
There's probably a region.
Academy.
I'm presuming. I don't know why, but I'm presuming right back, and not a very good one either.
Talking about right backs, that's literally one of the issues. So I think in the youth only save as well, when you're developing players, it's a bit different to when you're buying a young player. And so if you're buying a Rooney Bargy, right, like he can do a bit of, he's a right winger, but he can do a bit of everything. Like he can dribble, he's got the first touch, the finishing, there's a bit of everything in that player. But with these youngsters now, they might just have a strength. And then what I'm realizing in this youth only save now, it's not about building the perfect player, unless he's got that potential, which obviously you won't really know at this stage, but it's about building the player and getting the best out of him. So I'm now looking a lot at things like player traits. So we've got a right back. We like to use wing backs. The system at the start was using wing backs because we've got inside forwards, so get higher and overlap and that sort of stuff, the standard stuff. But then our fullback now, for the youth rankings, he's a decent defensive fullback who can cross, but he can't dribble and he's got no off the ball movement. So I'm like, already we're changing the role slightly, but it's his traits as well. So now I'm like asking him to get forward rarely, but cross early. So I'm trying to get the best out of his crossing attribute, but also just getting the best out of his defensive-minded ways as well, not get further forward so he can get caught because of his poor reading of the game. And I'm finding that a lot. Again, we've got a winger who hasn't really got a first touch, but he can dribble, which is like the craziest thing for me. It's like, yeah, we've seen a few of those in the Premier League. But yeah, he can dribble, but he hasn't got a first touch. And it's like, knock the ball past the opposition. That's what I think. Like in my head, that's the best thing. I don't want him to like control the ball. I want him to get the ball, knock it past him, the player, and then get past him in that way. Because obviously he's got the physical attributes for it. So it's that sort of thing as well. Like if the guy's passing's on 6, there's no point on me focusing on passing. Like because the odds are these guys haven't got the greatest potential ability. So to try and rinse that sort of ability on something that he can do rather than trying to get his passing from 6 to 9. So try and get that dribbling from 15 to 17.
It's a much more how do I word it? It's a lot more manager or coach oriented, isn't it? Doing it this way
very
because
coachy, yeah.
Because you are looking at, and you see it a lot when you get the Nugents come through, is centre forward as like bright green circle. This is what they definitely do.
Yeah.
But then also a little tiny red dot of wing back left, and you're like, what? Where have they done that from? And then, but you have to look at it and go, yeah, he's not a centre forward, is he? He's probably better at wing back. Like, obviously, the reverse would be, Gareth Bale, for example, starting as a wing back and becoming a forward. But looking at those players and going, right, as you say there, Aaron, okay, his first touch isn't great, but he's got some other attributes that could make him do something else. And you are trying to essentially, create diamonds out of bits of coal or whatever. And it's looking at that, what is better, 11 incredibly technically gifted players or 11 players who can work really hard? And guess what? That's the DNA I go for. I go for 11 players who are going to graft. You go for mentals first, then the physicals, and then the technicals. You can learn all the technical stuff, but if you're not switched on up here, or you're not prepared to put the effort in, then it's not going to work, is it? So that's where my thinking is.
Do you not have a minimum level of technicals you want them to be?
No, not at all. Like, basically, I'm happy if when they swing the boot occasionally hits the ball. Like, that's...
See, I'm like, I've got a centre-back at the minute, and he's got 14 in the 3 main technicals, right? Mm. He's got 14 tackling, he's got 14... Actually, he's got higher... He's 14 and above, sorry. 14 heading, 14 tackling, 14 marking. Physicals and mentals are fine. But the other technicals, he's got like 1s and 2s and 3s in like stuff. And I'm like, I can't take him out on the pitch with the 2 in dribbling.
But the thing is,
or like a 4 in passing, all right?
But the thing is,
he's a centre back.
If you're Athletic Bilbao, you can't, right? But I'm in South Africa and I've been in Greece all year. Like, for me, again, Aaron sort of touched upon it a little bit. I can have players who are just about good enough in that role in that league. Yeah. So
yeah.
Think about lower league management. We always say lower league. As long as you've got some players who are quick and can finish and can head, you're going to win the league. Simple as that, right? We look at centre backs and go, right, what do you want for a centre back? Have they got decent jumping reach and decent acceleration? They sort of seem to be the 2 major metrics, attributes as well for that. So it sort of overcompensates a little bit. And I know it's incredibly simplistic to say it comes down to just a couple of things, but the way that I manage, in the levels I manage, the technicals aren't as imperative, to be honest. Like, the difference between 8 for dribbling and 6 for crossing, there's no point of having 14 for crossing because my striker's only got 9 for heading, and 12 for off the ball. So he can put the perfect cross in, but my striker's still not entirely sure he's going to get there.
So what about a player like Azpilicueta? Because Azpilicueta has the technicals, he has the mentals, but he doesn't have the physicals. He hasn't got the jumping. He hasn't got the pace, particularly at this age. And he's not especially tall. But he's very good.
He's out of my team as well. So,
I mean, to be fair, Azpilicueta probably would get in your team, wouldn't he? He'd be good enough. But would you just look at Azpilicueta and write him off?
See, that's the crazy thing is to save. Like, you actually have to consider these players. So I'm sort of on both sides. Like, I've got a bit of you and me side at the moment, where I've got this winger he's actually pretty decent. Like, there's no reason why he's not to start, other than he's 5'1" with 1 jumping reach. Like, it's crazy. But I didn't see I didn't see this. I put him on the pitch, and I'm like, that guy's tiny. But in my head, I'm thinking I'm gonna lose games simply just by the AI kicking the ball long from the goalkeeper, and he's gonna lose that header all the time. That sort of thing, or what? Like, those sort of, when the game gets a bit crazy in midfield, like, he's gonna always lose those duels, which obviously is just gonna wind me up. So I should not even play him. Like, and then we always look at his attributes like he's good. And I just see that 1. That attribute is literally 1. Jumping reach 1. I'm like, and guess what, chat? Sorry, chat. Sorry, people. Could you chat? But guess what, listeners? We brought him on for a game. We swung the ball the far post. He's only gone and out-jumped the fullback.
They do. I swear, the shortest players get the goals in this game. Honestly, I think like, short, they will do. They will jump like.
To be fair to the game, because I was like, that just makes no sense. And like, after me raging about me missing so many opportunities, I'm like, I just feel stupid. To be fair to the game, it did read that the fullback missed the ball. So maybe it's like a bit of a visual misrepresentation where the defender's supposed to miss the ball and it wasn't actually supposed to look like they both went to header and my guy just out jumped him. But it was pretty funny when I'm just dissing this guy and then we whip it in far post and he scores a header.
But again, remember a couple of years ago I was playing in Indonesia. Like, so the goalkeepers are 5'9". Like, that's a big goalkeeper is 5'9". So I'm managing these players that have got strength of 3, 5'5", and I'm like, yeah, I just need mentals. I can't, because if I'm trying to find players who've got good technical ability, I'm not going to find them. I'm not going to find them.
Guys, I thought I'd check something, and I've just watched it happen. Valbuena scoring a header, so it can happen. And he's like 5'1".
It's just funny though, like, you just see these things and like, but that's the thing as well. And they're going like to fight sort of Tony's case. Football Manager sort of put me off because I remember that conversation about like all of these guys are professional footballers sort of thing. So actually, the difference between someone having an attribute of 9 and 12 or whatever might not be as big as you think. Yeah. So in my head, like, sometimes I'm like, well, if the striker's finishes on 7, he's through on goal, he's a professional footballer. Like, that's in my head. I got that thing as well. So I think there's certain attributes, right? So I'm back to that physical where I'm like, you have to have it. And then going back to the Dinamo conversation, as well, with the mental attributes, you just sort of have to have it. Whereas technical, possibly there's a possibility that you could just learn and grow technically. But I don't think it's very difficult just to grow in composure, for an example. Like, for a striker that hasn't had composure from the age of 13, I don't think he just gets into professional game and then instantly sort of gets it, I think.
So the question is then, if you're doing youth only, can you do what I like to do? Can you instill a DNA then? Like, and it might be doing your coaching and your training and looking at specific things to try and develop. But I would say that I like my players to have high work rate, high teamwork, good determination, and either stamina or fitness, because I want them to just run for 90 minutes, essentially. Like, you know, as I say, we'll worry about what you physically do with the ball when you get it, but can you last the whole match? Like, if you're working on youth only, and we don't know what you're going to get every single year, you might get one player who looks half decent who might just about make the bench. You might get 3 first-team players. Can you increase your odds of these players coming in on the trial day who might all look awful, but can you raise them enough to get them so that they are at least someone else in the squad? Like, can you work on these little individual attributes?
So, what I found out, again, watching Lewis Knight, is like, there's a lot of emphasis as well in the under-19s training. So, maybe I'm not doing the schedules, but I make sure I do all the under-19s individual training bits and the additional focus. I make sure I do that. And it's so weird that happens in the game. What happens in the game is that obviously they're doing the training, but at that age, so of course you think that game time is the most important, which it is, but that's from a certain age. But up to a certain age, actually just staying in the development team, doing training and stuff, can be the best thing for them. And it's happened a few times where I've just gone through my youth team, I'm like, there's no one really here. And then you play that season and you go back. And I think Si mentioned this a few episodes ago, where he's gone back to the youth team or the B team and like, wait, where the hell do you come from? And it's sort of things like he's actually developed. He's developed during that time, because obviously people have different development times. Not everyone's going to develop at the same rate. So obviously this one player has developed, and they're just thinking, wait, where's he come from? That's why I think now it's so important in the youth only to make sure you're doing this additional focus or whatever, just in case that ever happens, that you're prepped. If a player then does come good, you've already sort of prepped him in the way that you want him to be anyway, so he can fit in more when you get into the first team. But I do think what you're talking about as well, Tony, I think this is sort of a feature that we was asking for, again, back in our old episodes, about feature requests, that if you can speak to the board and you can have this sort of dialogue with the board. And we're saying, obviously, if you want a technical style of football, then you should be able to go to your head of youth and say, this is the sort of young players that you're looking for. And it's not to say that everyone's going to be 5-star technical, but that's the mold of players that you're going to get, right? And then a centre-back might come through and he's clearly a ball-playing defender, but he might not have all the other attributes, but that's the way that you wanted to shape your team. And you've got to sort of hope that you're going to get that Virgil van Dijk rather than just getting someone that can play with the ball and not
the Ajax, La Masia, isn't it? Like, they play the same system all the way down to the under fives, and it's like you will be that, like, you are primed for the first team essentially from being a child all the way through. One thing that I think is because there's a lot of crossover with this youth only save, and it's something that you have talked about, and I know you wanted to have it as its own episode, but the squad planner can kind of be your best friend in this as well, can't it? Because as long as you're aware, you know, as I was saying there's always someone who sort of like crops up and be like, oh my god, they're actually quite decent, and they can settle in. I guess if you use the squad planner in the way that it's probably intended, to know who your first, second, third, fourth options are in the future, then you can move players around rather than using it as a shortlisting tool, I suppose.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And again, you can sort of just rethink of your squad planner as just like a development plan rather than a squad planner. And you could just have like a whole, like a list of the right backs that you have at the squad. And sort of then you can move players up and down of who you prefer to give more game time to and that sort of thing. Because again, a lot of the times, like, I remember first signing up to this team on Football Manager, and you're not familiar with the players as well. So you're sort of like a guessing game, and you spend actually a lot of times trying to get familiar with these sort of players, because when you're in a game and you try to make that quick sub, like, you sort of pause for a whole moment, because now you have to go back and go through all these players' profiles and that, okay, which one's actually going to fit more tactically. And it's very difficult as well when your assistant, when you have an opinion like, this guy looks better, but your assistant is saying, this guy's a whole star better. And you're like, but wait, what? I'm looking at this guy, I'm pretty sure he's better, but you're telling me he's better. And you get this you get this conflict thing as well of like, I don't actually know which one to pick.
I think that's the great unknown, isn't it, Simon, at that point when you go into a team that you've got no clue at all, and you're just putting your faith in what you think is the right 11 and the right players sat there on the bench, and everyone else is pulling their hair out going, why have you left him out? And it's like, well, doesn't like he does it for me, to be honest.
It's tough, isn't it? Like, sometimes I look at the ratings, I'm like, why is he, like, I don't understand why my assistants rate him so low based on the attributes and traits that he's got.
Yeah.
Why this other guy's so high. Like, I'm looking at this guy and he looks fine, or this guy looks like awful. And then, I'm just trying to balance it out and trying to work out where they've come to that conclusion from. I mean, when you're making those substitutions, I have a question for you. So, some people might know out there who look at the data on FM and how players develop. Do you consider like, okay, right, if I'm going to sub, I've got to sub them before the 70th minute, because if I sub them after the 70th minute, they don't develop. It's negative development. Are you thinking about that?
I do that. But I'm also conscious as well when I'm in the non-leagues going, if he comes on, he's costing me another 80 quid, so he's not playing. Simple as that.
And are you loaning them out as well? That's the other question.
So my thing is to try and get them a match rating. I think once they get a match rating, then to me it's like they've registered the game. Yeah.
And if they don't,
I'm like that as well. So sometimes I'm like, I'm just rushing, just putting anyone on just so they get a match rating, and it counts out that they played and they're getting some game development. But I heard that's the thing. Someone in the chat said it's a thing. I'm like, I know, I'm doing it.
But again, Sai's got a good point there about loaning players out. Now, in the youth-only system then, in a youth-only save, is that something that we're going to be considering, getting these players out to get game time and then come back into your first team? Was that something that you could feasibly class as a useful technique?
Yeah. So we're in Spain, you're in this weird place where you can actually loan out your 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds as well. So if you can find a good loan move for these 16-year-olds, this is where I'm about, like, sometimes when I'm loading them out, I'm not actually sure which one's better. Is it the game time or is it just development in the youth team? That part, like, I'm not quite sure, like, when at that age, but I'm guessing if you just think game time is the best way, like, Spain could actually be a good place for you to do youth only, because you can send out 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds out on loan. Oh, man, that is difficult. I'm just being sorry. I just thought about a loan in my head, because I'm again. You get to these moments, right, where you've got a young player and like he's good enough, he can actually get some games, but this team's saying that he's going to play first team, and I'm like,
because that's the dilemma, isn't it? Because you know that if you get an injury, you can't loan someone in, or
exactly,
if he's good enough for someone else, then he's clearly good enough for you as well at this point.
And you're like, but if he stays and he doesn't quite get that game time, like we're saying, if the results ain't going our way, he's not going to play. But at the same time,
and again, Sai, if you are loaning them out, you're going to want them to go to somewhere that has similar setup in terms of training facilities, good coaching, similar play style to you. So all these things that you maybe don't pay too much attention to when you're maybe loaning players out and you're buying players, you can sort of say, oh, I know they don't play the same style as me, but hey, they're going to be first team. It doesn't really matter. Like, is it more important and more imperative to really consider that when you're loaning these young players out?
Apparently not if they're under 19.
Oh, okay.
Apparently if they're under 19, the facilities and quality of the team don't matter. I think that's correct. If they're over 19, then it matters. But up until 19, it doesn't matter, because it's just beneficial to get them out on loan.
Wow.
So even if it's like poor training facilities, this might be wrong, but that's from those people doing those tests on it all.
But that sort of makes sense to me, right? Like, if you're at that age, right, I guess the facilities don't really matter. It's more about the experience when at that age. Once you're like 19, 20, 21, then I'm pretty sure that the facilities, like, they want you to be like, all right, you're Arsenal. If you're going to back down to those sort of facilities, that's not probably the best thing for you at this stage.
But isn't there an irony there then that if your facilities aren't great, your players don't develop? but they can go to somewhere else's facilities which aren't great, and they'll develop. That doesn't seem like it makes any sense to me somewhere. Yeah.
Because they'll play.
I guess if he goes somewhere, just the game time in it. I'm guessing it's the game time. That.
Fair.
But I think loans can be very important for youth only saves. For me, the main thing that I check is the game time, and sometimes the game can trick you as well. Be like, regular star, send them out. We ain't playing him. So the one thing that I do is actually go and look in their positions and make sure as well. Like, I'll start comparing my guys. Like, is this guy good enough to get into that team before I send them out? So loans they can be, because we're in our fourth season. So obviously we haven't really seen many players out on loan come back with that sort of game time just yet. But we're just now promoted to La Liga 2 high promotion.
I suppose as well, what we need to consider is that youth only doesn't have to be a single club save either, does it? It can be an ethos and a philosophy that you continue throughout the save. So I know, again, there might be some people listening going, well, I'm going to start with this one team and I only want to be this one team forever and I'm only going to bring youth players through. But it's the same as like the sort of Park to Prem, non-league to legend. You can start in non-league. Doesn't mean you have to be the same team all the way through.
Oh,
You can move. You can move on this youth-only journey. But as long as you have the same philosophy when you get to the next club and then you start again and again and again, because sometimes it might not work out straight away and the board might sack you. So just to think that...
Yeah, unless you get sacked, man, but you must have a cold heart to leave a team doing this sort of save. Because you're building so many connections with so many youngsters as well. And then you come on, they're scoring these goals from substitutes and that sort of stuff. You're building these connections and like, all right, see ya, Todd. I'm off. On to the next one where you've got to do the grind again. Like, it's that's a big challenge, right? Like a journeyman, but youth only. You can only go and use the club's youth system. That's a difficult one. That one, I wouldn't think of doing that. That one there is crazy. Yeah, that one was crazy.
Adding an extra layer of difficulty on this one, just dialing it up a little bit. Oh, hello, is that the Musterman
But
skin?
it does make sense, right? It's your
know.
philosophy sort of thing, isn't it? That's just the way. I mean, if that's the way you play the game and that's the way you see football and that's the way you want to manage, then obviously it's just no biggie. But obviously with me, like scouting recruitment is a big part of what I enjoy about football. So doing that, sort of thinking of doing that is even this save sometimes like, I didn't even tell you guys. So we got promoted, right, into the league and then we had the stool in the air. And then we're like, yes, like I was literally saying this on stream, like, yes, all right, new season's coming up, we can refresh, get the squad back together and we're going to really plan. And then I press continue. My goalkeeper, 34-year-old, obviously the best player in the team, most experienced, but the goalkeeper, quite literally, attributes-wise, the only goalkeeper there, gets a 10-month injury. Damages his ligaments, like literally. And I'm just like, oh my. Yeah, because you're like, oh my God, we're going to go throughout the whole season without a goalkeeper. Well, we're like, chat, all right, we're going to stall again this year. Press continue again. I'm now considering retirement in 5 days. I'm just like, my mentor, the guy that's mentoring about 5 other goalkeepers because they're all pants. So I need any way to get their determination up. So yeah, he's just left us basically goalkeeperless. And you get for that stage of the start of the season, you're just trying out every goalkeeper. Like, your turn, clean sheet. No, all right. John, your turn, clean sheet. All right, Steve, your turn. So yeah, and we found one. He's all right. He's not good, but he's just he's just
gonna have to do, innit? He's just gonna have to do.
I think his jumping reach is like 10. And I'm like, now we're in the La Liga high promotion. It's gonna be a difficult year because now there's some decent teams in that league, and it's like, yeah, I mean, the striker can jump higher than our goalkeeper and that sort of stuff. This is just
when you start to get the actual quality difference. That's when it's like it really becomes tough.
I'm dreading it. Yeah.
So I think if we start to think about nations, then as where would be somewhere that might be handy for youth only. Si, is there anywhere that you've got off the top of your head a nation that you might think? And then we'll come to Aaron. And then
if you want to start with the obvious one, you go Bilbao. It's built to do that. And if you want a shorter term one that you're going to have success, but you're going to have to challenge at the top of La Liga, it's a good one to do. I know a few people have done the UK. I know a few people tried clubs like Dulwich Hamlet, take them all the way to Premier League with youth only. Takes a long time, but you can do it. Takes about 30 years, but you can do it. So yeah, that tends to be a fun one. It depends, like what level of challenge you want to set yourself. If you go to a country where obviously the youth facilities are already quite high, you go to the UK, you go to Spain, you go to Italy, you go to Germany, you could do all right. You could have it. Alternatively, you think about Dinamo Zagreb, like. Really, there's maybe only 3-4 teams in that country who are going to be challenging at the top level. And the quality of players coming through at Dinamo are very good in the academy relative to the rest of the league. Obviously, a lot of those players leave, but if you can keep them, there's no reason why a team like that couldn't stay at the top of Croatian football.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
And do it, from there. So I think it sort of depends how you envisage taking on the challenge. Do you want to build from the start at the very bottom of a pyramid, or do you want to take on a team at the top and have a real challenge, or do you want to see if you can you don't have too much of a challenge at national level, but to break into Europe like with Dinamo and to keep hold of the players is a very different thing. Like Bilbao will keep. I've had there's a few problems with keeping players at Bilbao, but not too much. Like most of them want to stay. There are a few who want to leave, but like as long as you're competing near Champions League, they're pretty happy to stay. Whereas like someone like Dinamo, you get a team like Dinamo, you get a team like Juventus come in and ask for a player, Chelsea come in and ask for a player. Petkovic is gone, isn't he? He's like,
he's
that's
gone,
it, done.
Out. He's out.
Even if you're shouting at Aaron and second yellow card, hey guys, you need to check those release clauses at the start of the World Cup, and they don't check it, and they're going, yeah, we're just going along checking trust. I said, go check those release clauses. There are about 10 of us in their chat telling him to do it, and they didn't do it, and then he left. They were like, why don't we check their release clauses? And everyone's like, somehow they managed to miss every time someone said that in the chat, and I figured they were just ignoring it because someone had already told them and they'd already checked it.
That's the thing. It could have been. It wouldn't have been me. I wouldn't have been focusing on the chat. Like,
to be fair, it was second yellow card who was on chat.
Even if I'm looking at the chat,
so we can blame him.
Yeah, the chat was just going crazy. It was goddamn. I got a smile because that was an amazing tournament.
Okay, so Bilbao, Zagreb, Aaron. Anywhere else you think?
Oh. So for nations, if you're just gonna look. First, if you're first thinking of nations, I would look for definitely a nation that's got a reputation of actually developing players. I mean, the obvious ones is Brazil and Argentina, though. If you're managing in those nations, you are, again, insane. And then, again, you got Croatia, right? Like, even if you're not a Dinamo Zagreb and you want a little bit more of a challenge, then, again, you can still pick a team in the top tier in Croatia and have a similar experience, but it might just take you a little longer than it would have at Dinamo. And then obviously you got the nations like Netherlands, you got Portugal. England I found actually tough. Like England might be an obvious one where I just think actually there's so many teams that can get these good young players. Like not only in the Premier League though, you still got like there's teams like Birmingham and that sort of stuff that are still getting and finding these young players before if you're trying to do this from non-league. I mean, that's, again, a crazy idea for whoever does that. But I would actually try and avoid England, crazy enough. And I would just be focusing on those, like, Portuguese, Spanish, the Dutch,
a team like Madeira, CD Madeira, could be a good one. Obviously, Ronaldo comes from Madeira, which is an island, and, like, it's sort of, like, off in the Atlantic. A bit the other one is Ponta Delgada. What's the team in Ponta Delgada? San Miguel, I think it's called. San Miguel. Not the beer. It's something like that. Anyway, they're just off like or Santa Miguel or Santa Maria. I don't remember, but anyway, like those teams on islands are kind of interesting because they have like captive, audiences of players, and you think, okay, I can only get players from the island, you could get them from other parts of Portugal, but you'd be really bringing them through there. That's where Ronaldo started, I think.
Someone listening might be able to help out. Is the city important as well? I don't know. I don't know where I read this. This might be a forum. It might have been someone's conspiracy theory, but I heard something about obviously like London has a great attraction, right? So it will just naturally have good youngsters and that sort of thing, and so too as Catalonia and those sort of areas, Madrid. I wonder if that's in Football Manager. I don't know, but I think I've read it. I've 100% read it before, and it's just sort of stuck in my head.
It would probably make sense because you often see players, and you certainly used to see it, was players would refuse to go to places because they want to stay in a more cosmopolitan area.
Yeah.
So maybe that like certain cities are weighted slightly higher. I guess, by demographic, yes, capital cities will have more players wanting to play there. So the chance of getting good youth intake in that area will make sense because there's more players to pick from. So yeah, that probably makes a lot of sense. I mean, I'm thinking of other nations as well, which could be fun. Italy could be fun. Germany could be fun.
Starting series.
Imagine winning Serie A with just a team full of homegrown players. You could start at Serie D, work your way up. Oh, that would be lovely, wouldn't it?
That was one of the leagues that the viewers were requesting, but I don't know. I had my heart set on this Cornelia team in Spain, but yeah,
San Giuliano City. If you want a team in Serie D,
ooh, okay. Yeah,
it's a new team, 2021. They are not part of the City Group. They look like they're imitating the City Group.
Okay,
but as far as I know, they're not part of the City Group. They took over a team in Milan. They moved to Milan. So they took over from another team. They're only about 3 years old. They got into Serie C. They got relegated back to Serie D. But starting in and around making the third Milan team. A big Milan City.
France as well would be a good one.
Oh yeah, France obviously.
For youth only. And you know what? I'm chucking it in there again. Scandinavia. All of Scandinavia for youth only. Like, give me Norway, give me Sweden, give me Denmark.
Yeah.
Honestly, like you can't fail to like have a Wonder Kid factory. Just like bringing them through, selling them off. It's like Croatia. It's bring them through, sell them off, and then you got to try and work out. Actually, these players have been sold halfway through their domestic season because the transfer window doesn't line up with the rest of Europe. So you got that added difficulty level in there as well.
Yeah,
Youth Only Pentagon. There we go. That's this month's challenge, chat. That's this month's challenge. You got to finish it by Christmas. Nice knowing you.
Oh no way!
I mean, could you imagine that someone will have done that? Someone will have been able to do a youth only Pentagon, right? Absolutely will have done it.
Honestly, people, just try it out. Youth only is one of those things it doesn't sound too daunting. It just doesn't sound too daunting at all. It's only when you start actually getting into the game and things start happening. You might even win your first three and you're thinking, oh yeah, this is going to be a lovely smooth save. And things just happen. Your team start missing chances, and that's when you quickly realise you can't just dip into the market and that sort of thing. And then when a player wants to leave, you get sometimes that message that I'm just going to see myself out by the end of the contract and that sort of thing. And you're like, you can't do anything about it. You can try and convince him that you've got 5% chance of turning that around. And yeah, you come across things and you're like, okay, yeah, this save is starting to heat up. Now, my left winger, the best winger, doesn't want to sign a new contract. So I'm like, okay, I got to 2007 with you. And now we're just counting down the time. We're just counting down the clock.
It's when you see players linked with you in the press and you click on it and you're like, oh yeah, he would actually be quite good, wouldn't he? And it's oh yeah. Can't have him. Never mind.
I'm even doing press conferences, and yeah, I've had that message before. You're focusing on this player. I'm like, I don't think Mr. Journalist has clocked onto our motive here.
No, I'm not.
But yeah, those. This is where I'm starting to be invested in the save, and I keep forgetting the word, man. But when you're just so invested in the save, but I'm doing the press conferences, right? And now I'm answering the questions where I'm taking off the pressure from players and that sort of stuff. But then when they say, what do you think about Forsen, which is the winger who's 26 or whatever, very high consistency, determination and that. And so I'm like, I'm expecting big things. Every time I'm expecting big things. As soon as you ask a question about a young player, I don't want to talk about individuals today and that sort of stuff. But you get in this again, that sort of role playing. And sometimes your players do actually react from these press conferences as well. But you start getting into that role playing, does this have an effect? But you're just doing it just in case it does have an effect. And my word, the way I was going mental when I said, yeah, I expect a big game. The guy goes into the next game and scores a hat-trick, and I was just going mental. That's me. I was like, that was me doing that. You scored a hat-trick, but it was me.
That's the real-life influence rubbing off, isn't it? So.
Yeah, I think he's turning into he's going to transition. I bet if Dynamo are looking for a manager next year for whatever reason, they'll be on the phone to Aaron.
Oh man, hey, honestly, that's the craziest thing because I got a couple of their numbers as well. not many times during the day I'm like, I just don't want to send them, but you don't want to come across that guy. Like you're like, no, if something happens in my life, then I'll be prepared to message them. But I'm always considering, should I just like slide something over? Like they've got my LinkedIn, but have they checked it? Should I make sure they check the LinkedIn?
The problem is though, is if they approach Aaron, he'll start a new save after about 3 games. Just like, oh, this has been great. I've got to go somewhere else. Sorry.
Either that, or they're like, "Where's Aaron? Oh, he's gone to the trainer shop." Because I swear, every time I logged onto his stream, he was in a different trainer shop. He was like walking around the either in a bakery or a trainer shop.
No, literally, where is Aaron? Where is he? We can't find him on Google.
On that note, thank you to the person who returned him to his hotel room on Monday night.
Yes.
I'll tell you what, yeah.
In advance.
So FIFA posted something about me being a manager, like the day experience, but I don't think someone clocked on like it was just like a thing that they said that I wasn't actually the manager. Because they lost as well. Like, so I was like, see, you can't be that good or something. I'm like, I don't think this guy's clocked on. He's actually thought that I've done it.
And you know what though? That's part of the problem, innit? When you do get these link-ups with real clubs.
Oh my days.
Because I know that was a big thing with that result, was like, it feels like bad timing, doesn't it? When we did the thing with Odds Ball Club in Norway a few years back, we did a fake press conference to sort of announce me as taking over as like the esports manager. They had to delay it for a week because their real manager was under a lot of pressure because like things weren't going well, and they were like, "We don't want to say that you're the new manager in case some people think that you're the new manager."
Oh my god! So at the beginning of this cycle of FM24, I was supposed to do something with Cheltenham, and it was supposed to be the same angle, right? Like, RDF the new manager, but then the manager himself was actually under fire. It was like, we can't actually release this stuff. We can't actually do this because it looks like we're actually trying to force our current manager out and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
We had something similar when we ran the gig at Huddersfield Town years ago. We did this comedy gig at Huddersfield Town. We used to run it like as a monthly thing, and we had the issues sort of like trying to sell tickets for it because of course at the time they weren't playing very well, and you get the response of, well, there's enough bloody comedy on the pitch, we don't want to pay for more comedy at Friday night. It's like, oh god, just it's something different. But yeah,
oh my days. But yeah, I was gonna say the Dinamo, so saying that obviously it could have been awkward. You're sitting like in VIP with these guys as well that have invited you here, and now you're losing 4-2 and that sort of stuff. They're losing 4-2, but the craziest thing is their fans, their ultras, were still singing and just getting mental. Like, there was just full-time party mode. I don't know what they had to drink, but they were just going the whole 90 minutes. Of course, like, so this is the crazy thing is that you see this sort of stuff, like, at home, you're watching Champions League and you'll see these European fans and how they are during the 90 minutes. You see the flares. I swear to you, I'll go into the game, minute 1, you're seeing everything. Like, the flares are on the pitch already. The game's paused. The game ain't even started yet, but it's paused because the flares on the pitch. And yeah, the ultras are going absolutely mental. So even though they lost, it didn't have that awkward feeling like, oh, this is possibly a bad time sort of thing. Like, the Dynamo guys still having conversations with you and that sort of stuff. They're like they're laughing, they're sort of laughing it off. Like, I'm possibly a part of them, still very confident. Like, that football manager thing, right? Like, you're Dinamo Zagreb, you've lost a couple games, you're like 6 points ahead, but like, we'll catch them. You got that. I felt like that sort of aura around the stadium, like, yeah, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. And yeah, they won 4-0 on the weekend, so I'm sure they will be fine.
So what they'll have done then is they'll have lost one match and done what everybody who's in any of our chats will ever have done, and ripped up the entire tactic because they've lost one match.
They did. They
start again.
They literally did. They did. So they beat. That's what they. So they beat Salzburg with the back three, right? And then they asked me about the back three. So they used the back three in this game. They lost. And then they just smashed someone using a 4-2-3. What? They just plugged in the 4-2-3-1
Gegen press, overpowered.
They've actually done that. They actually did. They plugged in the 4-2-3-1. Hey, I think I'm going to send a message and make sure they didn't take my tactic.
Yeah. You know what'll happen next week? Next week they'll just start holidaying. They'll just get to the end of the season. We've had a great time. It's been brilliant. Right, and on that note, I think it's probably time to we'll wrap this one up, shall we? And we'll go into Patreon mode. So yeah, I guess if the idea of a youth only has tickled a little fancy in any of you, then do of course let us know. Leave some comments below on YouTube. Maybe leave some comments in Discord. Come and have a chat to us in there. Or maybe let us know on social media or via email. Do you remember the email address?
The FM show pod@gmail.com. I thought I'd do it in Aaron style. He loves like a little musical one.
Yes, do send us some emails, please. We have got a couple, so we'll start to read those out as we go through. But yeah, some more would be very, very kind. Thank you very much. So please send us some emails, particularly around other game modes that you might want to consider between now and the start of FM25, because that's next week's episode. There's a little spoiler for what next week's episode is going to be as we come up for that. Aaron, we've mentioned Patreon at the start. We're going to mention it again. Where can people find us?
They can find us at patreon.com/the FM show pod. That's patreon.com/the F
God, it's going so well.
That actually made me laugh. / the FM show pod, where you can support the channel from as little as £3. And if you're cheeky enough, there might even be a free trial in there for you as well.
Yeah, it was going so well. I thought, that trip to Croatia's giving him media training and everything. / he's gone Sean Connery, which is quite impressive. Loads and loads and loads of bonus content on Patreon. There's always an extra recording after the weekly episode, which you get early anyway. You get the early access episode. Then you get some extra stuff as well as recorded. And of course, you get the live show from this week, which was incredible. It was in front of 18,000 people. So yeah, we had ultras, we had flares, we had to stop the gig for 5 minutes, which was, safety hazard at one point. But anyway, watch the show, have a great time. Thank you very, very much indeed. Hope you've all enjoyed it. Come and hang out next week. We'll have another episode of the FM show. But until then, take care, stay safe, and we will see you all very, very soon. All the best. Bye now.